Good morning, everyone, and welcome to tourismtechnology.com's webinar, Email Marketing, Boost Your Response Rate. My name is Jennifer Brown, and I'm with Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador. We are very pleased that you could join us today, and I would like to acknowledge participation from our partners in this project, the provinces of New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland and Labrador, and the Tourism Industry Association of each province, including the Tourism Industry Association of New Brunswick, the Tourism Industry Association of Prince Edward Island, and Hospitality Newfoundland Labrador, and of course, Tourism Atlantic ACOA. The aim of tourismtechnology.com is to empower tourism operators in Atlantic Canada to improve their competitiveness by effectively using online technology. TourismTechnology.com provides operators with the skills, knowledge, and expertise to take advantage of current online tools and resources. TourismTechnology.com offers one-on-one mentoring, workshops, and tutorials, all ranging from basic to advanced levels of learning. If you're following along online today, please feel free to tweet or post using the hashtag TourismTech. We will do a Q&A at the end of the webinar, but please feel free to type your message in the chat as we go along. We're very happy to have Jason Ferris from the Tourism Industry Association of New Brunswick and Allison Clark from the Tourism Industry Association of Prince Edward Island here with us today. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Jason to get started.
Thank you, Jennifer. Well, email marketing. I'm not going to lie, this was a really tough webinar to put together, not because I don't know the topic, rather because of the sheer volume of information that could be covered. Narrowing down all the data into a short time frame like this is a difficult task. That said, hopefully you'll come away today from today's session with knowledge to help you better understand this industry and some helpful tips that you can actually start applying in your business. I'm going to be covering a lot of info, and I don't expect you to remember it all. Feel free to take notes, but know that this slideshow presentation will be made available after the presentation to those who would like a copy. All right. Topics we're going to be covering today: email marketing overview, just general industry, what is a response rate, what constitutes good versus bad response rates, getting your emails delivered, dealing with the spam filters, getting your emails opened, that's an important one. Just some general tips on writing, content, and improving your click-through rate. What this webinar is and is not. Today we're going to be dealing with tactics to help improve readability, response rate, and deliverability of your emails. Tips on content creation, what makes for good content, and we're basically assuming you already know a little bit about email basics, understand some of the terminology, how to create an email list, and you're looking to advance your skills. What this webinar is not is how can I trick a spam filter. This is legitimate marketing, and we want you to stay compliant with email laws. We're aiming to improve your understanding on what kinds of things can cause your emails to be filtered and how to adjust your tactics so your important emails are delivered to the intended audience. So let's get started. This summer, email is going to be 46 years old and shows no signs of slowing down. In fact, it's one of the most widely used and trusted channels for people to communicate today. It's helped elect world leaders and has been a secret ingredient in many startup companies growing into multi-billion-dollar enterprises. But the dark side of email is spam. While today's spam filters do a fairly good job of keeping junk out of our inboxes, many organizations also get caught up in the crossfire of the war on spam when their emails end up in the spam filter. If your subscribers don't see your emails, then they can't open, click, and convert. While the importance of reaching customers' inboxes is undeniable, the reality is that many messages are missing the mark. In 2016, on average, 1 in 5 messages failed to reach the inbox. Global deliverability also experienced a slight but steady decline, with 24% of messages missing the inbox in the last quarter studied. With deliverability declining, marketers are missing out on building valuable relationships and achieving the highest possible return on investment. The latest compilation of email client market share from January this year shows why it's so important to consider how your emails render on different platforms, in particular on mobile. As you can see here, the pink line, over 50% of people are using mobile devices to open their email. I'm personally still a fan of my laptop, but when I stopped and thought about it, I found that even I open a majority of my email on my phone. The way we as a society communicate is changing, has changed, and will continue to change. Business operators need to adapt to survive. So what is a response rate? Also called a conversion rate, it's a measurement of the amount of people who respond to a certain call to action. It's calculated by dividing the number of recipients who responded to the offer by the total number of recipients. It's usually represented as a percentage. So defining a response. It might sound like a silly thing to do, but different types of campaigns with different business goals have different definitions of a response. For instance, say a company wants to market a free online game. Well, here the end goal is just someone to play the game. So the definition of a response here is to install and play the game. There's no revenue involved. Another company might be trying to drive people to join their nonprofit association. Here the response is defined as a join, and it requires payment. Even a single campaign can involve many different types of responses. The initial response for lead generation campaigns is for the person to provide their contact information. But this is just the first in a chain of actions. You got to speak to the sales rep, get a demonstration. These all lead to the final and most important response, a purchase. A click, whether it's a display ad or an email message or another digital marketing piece, it's also a type of response. Now, while you can define a click as your response, there's usually something further down the conversion tunnel that's better use for this measurement. You want your response rate to be a measure of success or failure for a campaign. To do this, you need to define it so that it reflects as closely as possible your bottom line performance goals. When you think of it this way, your response usually isn't a click. Now, good versus bad response rate. It's a little harder to define. There's no single good response rate for every marketing campaign. For instance, in the examples that we just saw, you'd expect that a response rate based on a free action, like playing an online game, would be a little higher, of course, than a response rate for a paid action, like joining a membership. This usually ends up being true in real life. The response rate on a direct marketing campaign, where a purchase is the action, is lower than on a lead generation campaign, where the action doesn't require any money. That said, here are some stats that you might find interesting. Email engagement rates broken down based on industry. Now, I've selected a few of the industries that might be of interest here. The email open rate for restaurants is around 21%, with a click-through rate, meaning people take an action by clicking a link in the email, is around 1.25%. The travel industry, on the other hand, has a lower open rate, but almost a full percentage point higher click-through rate. Now, these are global stats, and many factors influence the numbers, but they may help give you a starting point. While email marketing industry benchmarks are interesting, the best way to determine whether your response rate is good is to compare it to an internal benchmark. If your business has been sending email, even for just a short while, you can and should use data from these past sends to create internal benchmarks. The data is based on your list, your product lines, your price points. The stats are all completely customized to your situation, so they're better to use for comparison than industry benchmarks. So use the industry benchmarks as a gauge of what might be possible, but use your own internal benchmarks to determine whether your campaign is performing well or poorly. One more thing. If there's money involved, then it's unlikely the response rate is a sign of success or failure for the campaign. To do that, you'd need a metric that involves revenue, preferably some sort of return on investment. That's going outside the scope of this webinar, so feel free to ask your local tourism industry association for more information on that after the presentation. So let's get into the meat of today's topic, getting your emails delivered. First off, let's start with a well-maintained email list. If 20% of your emails are bouncing back because they don't exist, this isn't helping you or anyone else. Many times, these are hard bounces. A hard bounce indicates a permanent reason an email can't be delivered. Common reasons are emails sent to an address that no longer exists, maybe the domain expired, or the recipient email server has completely blocked your delivery. Keeping outdated emails could also run you into spam traps. These are email accounts that are no longer used, that an ISP has converted into a spam trap. These addresses have been inactive for a couple of years or so, and maybe the domain has expired a while ago. Basically, there's no good reason for anyone to be sending messages to these accounts. Now, if you continue to send emails to these addresses, your messages will automatically be marked as spam. It's absolutely vital that you maintain your email list to keep it current. Getting caught by a couple of these spam traps can cause you all sorts of problems, like getting blacklisted. If this happens, you won't be able to send to anyone. If you get any returned mail after sending out an email blast, you must clean up your list before you use it again. And next, you should watch out for spam complaints. Make sure your subscribers are aware of your emails so that they don't send spam complaints about you. Accidental abuse reports. You don't have to be a spammer to get reported for spamming. Even legitimate marketers who only use opt-in lists can have their email reported as spam, even if it's not. Sometimes it's a simple mistake, like when a user clicks the spam button to unsubscribe from an email. Since it's almost inevitable that you'll receive complaints every now and then, ESPs, or email service providers, are constantly monitoring abuse reports from ISPs, blacklists, anti-spam networks to immediately pinpoint problems as they arise and investigate the account in question. Every major ISP cares about reducing unwanted email for their customers. But when you receive an abuse report, there's no negotiating. You're guilty until proven innocent. As long as your email list has been collected legitimately and you're able to prove that any complaint you received is a simple mistake, you're in the clear. But if a reason is found to question your list collection practices, your account could be disabled or shut down altogether. In email marketing, it's important to remember that permission is key. Keep the following tips in mind to help prevent spam complaints as you start sending email to subscribers. First up, choose your opt-in method wisely. While you want to expand your email contact list, it's useless to fill it with phony addresses. That's why having users double opt-in to receive messages is a good idea. This means they sign up on your website, then they confirm again by clicking a link in an email that you send out. The nice part about double opt-in is that you'll have proof that each and every recipient gave you permission to send them emails. And your messages are also less likely to end up in the spam folder if you ask users to register twice. There's also a number of popular sign-up methods that allow for single opt-in. Ultimately, the most important thing is that your recipients give you permission to email them. You'll have to consider your audience to determine which opt-in method is best for you. Now, don't use purchased or rented lists. Not only are they notorious for providing bad addresses that lead to high bounce rates and blacklisting, but they don't actually help your business grow. Sending to a list that hasn't given you express permission can impact your ability to market your business, potentially damaging your brand, and this can even result in legal ramifications. Instead, allow your list to grow organically. Wait for the people who want your information. Now, don't assume you have permission. Even if your intended recipients are already your customers or colleagues or people you met at a trade show, whatever, don't send promotional email without getting permission first. Add a sign-up form to your website. Give customers the option to sign up for your list when they make a purchase from your store. Offer incentives like discounts, coupons, or free downloads, for example, to encourage your customers to become subscribers. Just don't assume. Even ask them if you're at a trade show. Ask them for your email address, write it down, tell them what they're going to be getting, and you'll be all set. And speaking of telling them, set expectations when people join your list. If your subscribers think they're signing up for a monthly newsletter and you start sending them weekly promotions, they might not be subscribers for much longer. Tell people what you'll be sending and how often you'll be sending it. If you want to send out different content, like monthly newsletters, weekly special offers, different things like that, consider setting up groups in your list so subscribers can choose what content you want to receive, they want to receive. And don't wait too long before contacting them when they sign up. Every email list can go stale if it's not used regularly, even if subscribers were originally collected via double opt-in. Lists with a lot of stale addresses can lead to high bounce rates, spam complaints, and unsubscribes. In addition to keeping an up-to-date permission reminder in each campaign, consider setting up a process where new subscribers receive emails from you right away, maybe through an automated welcome email, and you might already be doing this. If you're worried that your list has gone stale, it'd be a very good idea to have your members resubscribe. You may lose some addresses, but at least those you still have will actually want to receive your information. Next, treat your email campaigns as an extension of your website, store, or brand. Your customers probably already have a good idea of what type of content, imagery, and design elements to expect from you. So don't stray too far and risk harming the recognition factor. If you have any questions about what content, designs, or subject lines your customers will respond to and engage with, don't leave it to chance. Use A/B testing to find out. I'm going to cover that a little bit more later. And definitely don't hide the unsubscribe or opt-out link in your campaigns. Canada's anti-spam legislation requires you to provide an unsubscribe link in every campaign you send. When the link is prominent, people who no longer want to receive your emails will be able to quickly and easily remove themselves from your mailing list. When the link is hard to find, the receivers might be more inclined to mark your message as a spam, resulting in an abuse complaint. Now, spam filters. There can be two sets of filters an email has to pass through, one at the server level and another at the user level. Unfortunately, there's no magic formula, and spam filters don't publish details regarding their filtering practices. But there are some steps you can take to avoid landing in your subscriber's junk folder. First off, spam filters want to know that you're acquainted with the person receiving the email. Use merge tags to personalize the to field in your campaign. Send through a verified domain and ask recipients to add you to their address book. So definitely get personal, get their name in the to field. Your IP address. Some spam filters will flag a campaign if anyone with the same IP has sent spam in the past. So if you're on a shared hosting server, this could be an issue. If you share the email server IP address with other users, you're at risk of being labeled a spammer just because of someone else's actions. Ideally, talk with your ISP about getting your own IP address. It's not that expensive generally, and it could be well worth it. Coding in the email. Spam filters can be triggered by sloppy code, extra tags, or code pulled in from Microsoft Word, because it adds a whole lot of extra tags. Use a clean template or work with a designer to ensure your email is free of clutter. Now, some spam filters will flag emails based on specific content or images they contain. But there's not an all-encompassing set of best practices to follow or things you absolutely need to avoid. However, some things you can do to help include design your campaign to be clear and balanced and to promote engagement from your subscribers. Make sure your subscribers have opted in to receiving your emails. Be consistent. Try not to stray too far from the content and design that your audience is already associated with your brand, website, or social media channels. And test, and test some more. Use A/B testing to learn learn how changes to your content affects delivery and engagement. Now, if an email makes it through all the servers, past the ISP spam filters and virus scans, doesn't bounce, and finally reaches the subscriber's email account, it's been delivered. It took some work to make it happen, but provided the email isn't reported as spam even before it's opened, your job is done, right? Unfortunately, not by a long shot. We need people to open the emails. This is a big deal. Your potential clients have opted in to receiving your messages, and your email got through to them. Well, great. Now, how do you get them to actually open your message? You need to deliver the most relevant and intriguing message possible to entice those opens. Now, here's where we're going to talk about A/B testing, also called split testing. If you haven't already started using this, it would be a very good idea. We mentioned it earlier. Now, if it's used correctly, A/B testing can play a major role in overall marketing and audience analytics. For email, the practice involves sending out 2 or more versions of the same message with one varying factor, like the sending address or the subject line. You can then review stats on each message style and see which one performed better. With this valuable information, you'll be able to craft emails that achieve higher open rates. Next, you definitely want to send emails from a real person. It's been shown that people are less likely to open emails from a department name or an address like info@company.com. So use a real name, joe@yourcompany.com, something like that. Make it from a real person. Give various registration options. Offering users a variety of choices of content they'll receive ensures that you're sending the messages pertaining directly to their interests, making it more likely they'll open your emails and read them through. Make sure you're sending at the right time. There seems to be an infinite supply of stats on the web suggesting the best time to email clients. Generally, though, early in the work week, during morning hours, are strong open email rate times. However, your customer schedules may not conform to the average 8 to 5 workday. Using A/B testing to track email open and click-through times is a must. And don't ever underestimate the power of subject lines. This is a big one. Subject lines are incredibly important, and a lot of research and drafting should go into creating one. You want a phrase that relates to and intrigues your readers immediately. Because this is so important, we're going to cover this in much greater detail in a few minutes. Okay, we've worked on getting people to open the email. Now let's give them some great content to read. Writing tips. Now, customers who actually read emails from brands spend an average of 85% more while shopping. It's worth taking the time to write content worth reading. Here are some ideas for writing great email copy, just to get you started anyway. So get to the point and do it quickly. It's easy to get mired in writing great content, but when it comes to email, people need the message quickly and summed up. Keep it short, simple, and to the point. It sounds awful, but a study by Princeton University confirms that people are inherently lazy and tend to choose the action that requires the least energy. I must admit, I fall into that. Say what you need to say in the beginning, then build up your persuasive argument. Give specific calls to action. There's nothing worse than being told to do something and not quite knowing what it is. Be sure that you make it clear in your email on the action you'd like for your reader to take. If you're searching for ideas, then the call to action can be direct, such as a link or button that leads to a checkout page, or indirect, such as a post or social share to engage users. In both cases, you need to test the placement and type of call to actions to see which outperforms the other. MailChimp has published some very compelling research that shows images tend to lead to higher click-through rates compared to text-based links. Proofread. Do it once, then do it again. Unprofessional emails with spelling errors, poor grammar, or other glaring issues can cause email subscribers to hit delete as soon as they open, or never to open at all. Be sure to proofread your content and rework it till it's perfect. And better yet, have someone else's eyes have a look at it for you. It's always easier for someone else to spot your mistakes. Use the right language as well. Avoid do not reply language. Put it this way. Would you ever do business with a company that says, don't contact me if you have a problem? Probably not. When you do the same thing in your email marketing message, it can alienate readers. So avoid that do not reply. Send it from the real person. Let people actually reply. Get the right language in there. It doesn't only apply to customer support, but also towards email marketing. If you send out emails too frequently and all you try to do is sell, then you're a failed cause because it won't lead you anywhere. In fact, people will start unsubscribing. Make sure you deliver valuable content that gets people excited every time you press the send button, as it can lead to a better response rate. And make sure you have a way for people to respond to you. Have a redirected email address for replies set up in advance. Also, make contact and customer service information readily available. Next, use branded templates. You can tell when a business is really trying at email marketing. You can also tell when they're putting no effort into it at all. Having a branded email template consistent with your other marketing efforts can create a good impression and also increase the trust factor of your email. Now, there are lots of free templates in the marketplace, but it would be a worthwhile investment to spend some time and money and have a quality custom template created. You also need to be persuasive. This seems like common sense, but it's one of the biggest flaws seen in a lot of email campaigns, probably because it takes an investment of time, which many of us don't have. But this is a necessity for successful email marketing. When you don't have a good offer, no one is compelled to open your email. It's that simple. So make it worth their while. Think of unique incentives that can make reading your email worth the time. A 2% coupon won't cut it. And if you can't offer something big, start brainstorming ways that you can offer other value instead. Maybe offering up a bit of knowledge that the reader could use on the fly, or give a reference to something that they'll benefit from. Maybe you could share testimonials or social proof that can help bring up your trust factor. Finally, have fun. No one wants to read a stuffy newsletter. When it comes to making or marketing messages, a sense of humor can go a long way. Keep things light and informal. Remember, the inbox is a very personal thing for a person. It's like being invited into your living room. Make sure you're a good guest by being open, conversational, and offering value. The minute you start to lecture or get long-winded, you lose your audience. On that note, hopefully I haven't lost you all yet. Let's move on to actually improving your click-through rate. Now, like so many others, your email inbox is probably filled to the brim every morning and topped off throughout the day from many subscriptions, alerts, and promotions that you're consistently or maybe even unconsciously you're opting into. If this sounds familiar, it's time for you to send your email. When it's time for you to send an email to your customers, how on earth can you get your email to stand out from the crowd? Because they're probably just like you. How do you cut through all of the noise to make your message stand apart? Now, it's no secret that one of the greatest challenges many marketers face is grabbing your audience's attention. We need to rise above the hundreds of other digital distractions and be seen. And if that wasn't enough, we also need to encourage our readers to follow through on their interest and engage or interact with us after we've won their attention. Thankfully, there are some things that can help make this happen. Try to make it personal. These days, our inboxes fill up fast, and junk mail is part of the clutter. We all deal with it. We sign up for some product or newsletter that looks promising, only to be inundated with spam and nonstop affiliate offers. One of the easiest tactical approaches many people use to weed their way through the quality content is by looking for their name. So make sure you're collecting first names when you capture the people's email, and personalize subject lines with their first name. This is an instant attention grabber and subtle trust builder. If you can't or don't want to use personalization in the subject line, you try using you or your, so it still sounds like you're addressing the person directly. Also, use a familiar sender name. If the from name doesn't sound like it's from someone they want to hear from, it doesn't matter what the subject line is. Thanks to the amount of spam email going out these days, most people are hesitant to open email from unfamiliar senders. No one likes talking to a robot. Think about when you call a company and can't get a hold of the actual person. It's frustrating, right? This goes for email as well. And never use noreply@yourcompany.com for an email address. Never use noreply@yourcompany.com. Not only does it make it look less personable, but it also stops people from adding your email to their contacts. So avoid using generic email addresses and send the email from a real person. For example, emails sent from John Smith, ABC Hotels will perform better in terms of opens and click-through rate than emails sent from just ABC Hotels. Also, you want to be mobile optimized. Nearly everyone today has a smartphone. In fact, 76% of Canadians now have a smartphone, according to a survey in 2016. That's up 38% in just 2 years. And 54% of all email worldwide is opened on mobile devices as of June 2016. People are using their phones to check email now more than ever. If the links in your email are always leading back to a site that's not mobile friendly, they'll stop opening because it's a pain in the neck to deal with. And you want to use enticing subject lines. Now this is a big deal. No matter what they say, people do judge emails by their subject line. 33% of email recipients decide whether or not to open an email based on the subject line alone. That's why it's so important to craft subject lines that are compelling enough to get people to click through. You want to keep, this is all on the subject line, you want to keep it short and sweet. Aim for a brief, punchy message that contains buzzwords related to whatever your email is about, like webinar, sale, or research, for example. Shorter subject lines tend to perform better than longer ones. Subjects will get cut off if they're too long, particularly on mobile devices. So use subject lines with fewer than 50 characters to make sure the people scanning your emails read the entire thing. If you're struggling to keep the subject lines short, think about which words matter less and where you can remove extra details. For example, with your regular emails, do you really need to include the word update or newsletter in there? Pick your words carefully. And actually, a study from Adestra found that emails including the word newsletter in the subject line saw an 18.7% decrease in open rates. Just some food for thought. Now you want to tell people what's inside the email. If your visitor has downloaded an offer and you're delivering it by email, it's a great idea to use a subject line that says something like, your new ebook inside, or your guide awaits. This works better than a simple thank you in the subject line because it makes it clear that something is waiting inside the email. You want to start your subject with action-oriented words. Subject lines are similar to calls to action. You want the language to inspire people to click. Subject lines that begin with action verbs tend to be a lot more enticing. Your emails could be drastically more clickable by adding a vibrant verb at the beginning. Actionable subject lines will inspire people to click on your email by instilling urgency and excitement. For example, in an email inviting people to a hockey legend dinner, the email subject line might read, dine with Bruins legend Bobby Orr, rather than a more generic local Boston sports legend meal. The former email uses dine to help the reader envision themselves at a dinner table. You also want to make people feel special. The psychology of exclusivity is a powerful thing. When people feel they're on the inside, it gives them a sense of belonging that could build loyalty and make them more likely to click through on your emails. The right phrasing can make your recipients feel special. A few ideas of phrasing include for our beloved customers only, an exclusive offer for you, my gift to you, you're invited, or personalized, John, this is your private invite, something to that effect. You also want to create a sense of urgency. An effective subject line style that will stop readers in their tracks is urgency. Subject lines that create a sense of urgency and exclusivity can give a 22% higher open rate. Using deadlines like today only or 24-hour giveaway will encourage your reader to act now instead of putting it off till later, when they might have a chance of forgetting about it. Avoid spammy language. That's my word. When email open rates may be up, spam filters are growing more sophisticated, and people have grown more wary of messages that resemble anything close to junk mail. When choosing the words for your subject lines, do some research on what spam language looks like and then head straight in the opposite direction. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You see the subjects, and I'm going to cover a couple of things here in a minute. Use numbers. A lot of businesses send emails with vague statements in their subject lines, which is why using numbers in your subject is a great way to get emails noticed. Demonstrate a clear, straightforward message about your offer and set the right expectations. You might use numbers to refer to the title of your article, the page length of the offer you're sending, a specific discount, or a numerical benefit of a particular resource you're providing, like join more than 750 others at this event, something to that effect. Or try posing a compelling question. Asking a question in your subject line can draw readers in. An accommodations business might try something like, what can you afford? And link to a web page showing available properties and pricing. They may even include more expensive competitors as a comparison. A subject line like this is both encouraging and with a touch of competitiveness. While it gives hope that there are accommodations out there that will fit within your budget, it also puts your cash against what the market is offering. Now, here's a big one, and that's part of the spammy language. Don't use all capitals or overuse exclamation points. I can't overemphasize this. A subject line that yells at you is probably going to end up in the trash. In fact, it could even be reported as spam without even being read. People don't like being yelled at. And using all caps or a lot of exclamation points can really rub people the wrong way. Instead of using disruptive tactics like these to stand out in people's inboxes, try personalizing your emails, establishing relevancy, and using catchy and delightful language. Next, you can try to use a unique hook. Your subject should attempt to give readers just enough information to get them interested and build up their anticipation. The goal here is to stir enough curiosity in the recipient that he or she wants to open the email. And the big one, don't ever lie. It might be tempting to stretch the truth or use an unrelated subject line just to get recipients to open your emails. Fight the urge and don't do it. If you announce something that you aren't going to deliver, your credibility flies right out the window. Well, I could go on. There is a ton of information in this. Many of the topics I've covered today could be expanded upon in much more detail, but my hope is that you've received enough of an overview that you'll be able to take some of these ideas back to your business, apply them, and increase your customer engagement. I appreciate your time, and I'm going to pass this back over to Jennifer.
Thank you, Jason. Just wondering if anybody had any questions. You can write them in the chat box. Jason, I'm going to ask you a question. In terms of the subject line, How do you feel about emojis? Because I'm noticing a lot in email marketing campaigns coming through my inbox that a lot of the subject lines have emojis attached to them, and I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
To be honest, in all the research I've done, I didn't come across that one. As long as it's not overdone, it shouldn't be a big problem. But on the other hand, it depends on the image you want to present. If you're trying to be a professional company, an emoji can send a friendly message, but maybe not the professional image you're trying to convey. However, if you're trying to be conversational and keep a friendly tone, having a smiley face shouldn't be a bad thing. It automatically puts people's guards down and sets them at ease, so it wouldn't be a bad idea. Just you obviously wouldn't want to overdo it.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions? You can press #6 to unmute your phone if you're listening on the phone and want to ask a question, or if you're listening through your computer speakers, you can type in the chat window.
Yeah, Kim, it is a ton of information to digest. I agree with you completely, and there's so much more. Hopefully you'll be able to get something out of this from today.
Jason, do you have a preference on third-party email marketing platforms?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I mentioned MailChimp. We covered that last week in the Free Tools to Help Your Business Grow webinar, and it is absolutely great depending on how many subscribers you have. If I'm remembering correctly, MailChimp, you can have up to 2,000 subscribers and send up to 12,000 emails every month, and that's absolutely free. So if you're under those thresholds, it is absolutely the way to go. Once you go above those thresholds, then it's still worthwhile. It is very comparable in price to other products on the market. The nice thing about MailChimp is that you can do the A/B testing that I was talking about, or the split testing. Test your subject lines, test the time of day sending. It's a wonderful application for doing that. So if you have not yet got into email marketing and this is something you're looking to do, I would definitely recommend looking into that MailChimp.com application.
Hi, Jason. It's Melissa at H&L.
Hi, Melissa.
You did a great job on the webinar today, and I just to reiterate what you were saying about third-party email marketing platforms like MailChimp or Constant Contact is another one that's really popular. If you're sending any kind of emails, and a lot of what Jason talked about today are things that you would send out to more than one person at a time, to a group of people, sending directly from your inbox is not the most practical way to do it, and also an easy way to end up in junk mail folders. So looking into that third-party email service provider like MailChimp or Constant Contact, I think is a really good idea for anybody, even if your list is only 20 or 30 people, because it helps you manage unsubscribes. It helps you ensure that you comply with all legislation in terms of email marketing and that you're not accidentally spamming somebody or sending emails to someone after they've unsubscribed from your list. And those things, like Jason said when they covered in last week's webinar about free web tools, can be free up to a certain point depending on how big your list is. So definitely, if you're going to consider email marketing as a bigger part of your online marketing strategy, I would definitely consider going right to one of those third-party platforms.
Thanks, Melissa. Great points. And Michael's asking, is the response rate to general email really very low? It can be. It depends on the market, your customer base, how many people you're sending to. There's a lot of factors involved there. But in general, yes, the actual open rate, I mean, you could be receiving an open rate of around, hopefully, 30% if you're doing well. But the click-through rate, it varies per industry, so it's tough to tell. The slideshow here will be available to you. If you'd like it, Michael, just request it from your association, and we'll get a copy. The numbers are in there for you to have a look at the global stats. But as I said, using your own internal benchmarks, if you're tracking your emails as they go out, that'll give you a much better idea, telling you, okay, if this one I got a 25% open rate on this campaign, and on the next one you got 30%, well, that's good. You're seeing an increase, and you're comparing it to your own customers, your own products, and everything. It's all customized, so that would be the best way. Oh, wow, another question. How often to do split testing? As often as you, there's really no limit to it. Your customers aren't going to see a big, it's going to be a small change, a simple subject line modification or the time at which it sends out. If you've got, I'll just random numbers here, let's say you have 100 subscribers, it's going to send 50 of them the A copy and 50 of them the B copy. And then when you get all your stats back, you'll see which one was more successful. If you, once you've done enough A/B testing to know the certain time of day that your customers are opening, you probably don't need to retest on that one. Maybe after a year has passed, maybe some things has changed, you want to try it, go ahead. But test and test some more is really the way to go. It's not going to hurt anything. I'm just reading a question. Would Facebook marketing be much better than email? Wow, that I'm not prepared to answer at this time. I think it's going outside the scope of this presentation, and they're reaching.
Hey, Jason, it's Melissa here at H&L. I just think that maybe email marketing is like social media, Facebook, Twitter, even more traditional marketing that you may not be doing online, is all a part of your overall marketing strategy. So it wouldn't necessarily be about doing email marketing because there's more return on investment than there is in paying for marketing on Facebook or investing into your Facebook page. They're all part of a well-rounded overall online strategy when it comes to your online marketing. And so, social media is definitely a place to be. That's where a lot of your client base in tourism often is on certain platforms. Email marketing is another option there to help you continue to communicate with the clientele and client base that you've already built up in terms of how you got those emails in the first place. So again, it's not about doing one over the other. As you play around with these different types of tools, if you feel email marketing is the way, is a certain channel that your business can definitely take advantage of and use, then by all means you want to get in there and try it. And in the end, it's different for every business and every owner, operator, employee. So really, it's all about testing it out and see what works for you as a business owner and what works for your clients as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason, so much for that webinar presentation. You did a really, really good job. So if you're wondering what your next learning steps might be following this presentation, there are many technology learning options available to you simply by contacting your provincial tourism industry association. We would be happy to help you determine your next steps, whether they be one-on-one mentoring, further workshops or training opportunities, or advanced mentoring sessions. Coming up next this spring, tourismtechnology.com will be hosting a workshop on online video production. The Tourism Industry Association of New Brunswick will be hosting 4, April 25th in Miramichi, April 26th in Moncton, April 27th in Fredericton, and April 28th in St. John. The Tourism Industry Association of Prince Edward Island will be hosting 2, May 10th and 11th in Charlottetown and Summerside, and Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador will be hosting 3, May 8th in St. John's, May 10th in Grand Falls, Windsor, and May 11th in Corner Brook. Check out tourismtechnology.com for a complete list of resources and future training opportunities, or call your provincial tourism industry association. Again, thank you to our project partners, the provinces of New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland and Labrador, and the tourism industry associations of each province, including TIANB, TIANB, and H&L. And of course, Tourism Atlantic, ACOA. Thanks everyone for joining today, and we look forward to working together in the future.